Hey all you cool cats and kittens, my name is Casey Albecker, and today I'll be discussing why we should ban public zoos, specifically the mental and physical suffering that each individual animal in captivity faces and the laws or lack thereof regarding animals in confinement. Now, some of you might be familiar with the popular Netflix documentaries Joe Exotic, which examines roadside zoos, specifically for big cats, or Blackfish, which examines orcas in captivity. But when I was researching this topic, I realized that this isn't just a problem in the United States. Animals in captivity are suffering all over the world. Now, conservationists will argue that some of these programs are vital to saving endangered species. However, is it worth the suffering that each individual animal faces? Well, let's dive in. Now, some of these shows, trigger warnings, some of these graphics I'm about to show you are hard to look at, but imagine, if they're hard for us to look at, they must be hard for these animals to face every day. Close quarters, malnutrition, and lack of simulation, something I hadn't thought about before. According to a study, an article by Rebecca Meager, animals in captivity suffer from boredom, stress, and confinement. No matter how humane a zoo tries to make these conditions for animals, nothing compares to the freedom of the wild, of their natural habitat. One prime example of an animal in captivity suffering is Lucky, the Asian elephant. Now, she lives in at the San Antonio Zoo in San Antonio, Texas. And according to the Defense of Wild Animals, they reported that her mate died. And now, for elephants and other species, bonding with their mates and living with species and their families is important to their mental health and their overall lifespan. Now, Lucky's mate died, and ever since then, she has been forced to live in solitary confinement. Can you imagine living by yourself with no other species just for the simple fact that you're an attraction commodity to the zoo? Now, baby animals bring in a lot of money for the zoos, yet they are often also taken from their families at a young age from birth. But because that babies are such a main attraction, this leads to overpopulation a lot of the times. According to Deborah Kleiman for the University of Chicago Press, animals are often sold to other zoos, taken from their families, sold to other zoos, but also even hunting facilities, often just killed outright. For example, these are perfectly healthy lion cubs, some of 4 of 9 that were killed at a Swedish zoo just because of overpopulation. I also want to get into the laws that are regulating these zoos and how big they are and how zoos get around these conditions. The Animal Welfare Act establishes some standards, but I'll read it for you here. It states that sufficient space each zoo must have sufficient space to allow an animal to make normal postural and societal adjustments with adequate freedom of movement. Inadequate space may be indicated by evidence of malnutrition, poor conditions, or abnormal behavior patterns. Now, I've seen this firsthand at Wachiti Zoo, and I want to show you some pictures. For example, this is Lila the tiger. She's known as Lila the bald tiger. She has since been deceased. This is at Wachiti Zoo. Losing her hair is a sign of stress. Violating the Animal Welfare Act often just results in a slap on the wrist. I want to show you some other conditions. This is a bear that has been losing its hair. Places such as PETA have started petitions to close the Wachiti Zoo. But as you know, the Wachiti Zoo is still in practice and still operating today. But there is hope. There is a solution. Upon banning these zoos, as conservationists point out, they're vital to endangered species. Yet, taking animals out of the wild to breed them also is detrimental to their natural population and breeding. But with animal sanctuaries that are nonprofit organizations that rehabilitate these animals, we can see animals up close, interact with them, and also save their kind. And that's what I highly suggest. But again, like I said, there is hope. And in conclusion of my speech, I want to leave you with a quote from English philosopher Jeremy Bentham. He says, the question is not, can they reason, nor can they talk, but can they suffer? Again, my name is Casey Albecker, and thank you for listening to my speech on why we should ban public zoos.